See if we get the echo tonight. No, that's much better. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the regular council meeting for Monday, September 8th to order. Before I start, just a quick territorial acknowledgement. It is an honor to begin by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen-speaking people, represented by the Songhees and Kasepsin nations. We're grateful to live, work, and play in this special place. May I have a mover and seconder to adopt today's council agenda as presented? Thank you, Council Olson and Council Ward. Discussion, seeing none. Oh, go ahead, please. Councilor Jordison.
I just wanted to pull something from the agenda.
We could do that off the consent.
It's off this consent agenda.
Yeah, we'll do it when I
Okay,
hit
sorry.
the consent agenda. Okay. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. We have a release of an in-camera resolution, and that's the proposal to support the City of Langford daycare facilities to be operated by the West Shore Parks and Recreation be denied. Okay, I have a quick message here. I didn't even know this until this year myself, but I'd just like to highlight a great opportunity for youth in our community. And council just recently sponsored Luciana Camacho. She's a Colwood resident and recent valedictorian of Royal Bay Secondary to attend the 2025 Union of BC Municipalities, or UBCM convention, as a student delegate. Luciana is beginning her political science studies at UVic and is the only student from Colwood to apply this year. Sponsorship simply means that we provide an endorsement. There's no financial contribution required by the city. And with our support, Luciana will work with AVIC to complete the paperwork and attend the convention. Each year, students living in Colwood can apply for this opportunity, and area associations like AVIC can approve up to 3 student delegates annually. It's a valuable way for our youth to learn about public service, policy making, and local government. We'll be promoting this opportunity on social media next year and encourage interested students to apply. For more information, please contact our corporate services office. That's all I had. And we'll go on to adoption and receipt of minutes. May I have a mover and seconder for the adoption and receipt of the minutes under section 5.1 of the agenda? Okay, Councilor Jordison and Councilor Olson. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. At this point in time, it's public participation time. There were no written submissions received prior to agenda publication, and no written submissions were received after agenda publications. I think that's a first since I've been there. There are no members of the public have registered to speak virtually. So at this point in time, any members from the public that wish to speak, I welcome you. No? Mr. Conrad, not going to take me up on that? Okay, so I will move on to the consent agenda. And at this point in time, I just want to point out that items in this section may be voted on in one motion. A member may request to remove an item for the purpose of individual debate or discussion. And Councilor Jordison, you want to remove one item. Go ahead, please.
I'd just like to remove 7.2 from the agenda.
Okay, and that shall become item 8.5 of new business.
Thank you.
So can I get a motion okay, thank you very much. Seconder, Councilor Jordison. Discussion, seeing none, motion carries. Okay, now we get into new business. If I can ask the CEO introduce this, our first speaker, please.
Thank you, Chair and members of council. This is item This is item 8.1 with Carolyn Richmond, our climate planner, and Cassandra Cummings from Diamond Head Consulting. This is the draft biodiversity report and strategic framework. The recommendation is that council receive the draft state of biology report and draft human impact assessment of the Esquimalt Lagoon Migratory Bird Sanctuary report for information, and that staff be directed to use the strategy framework to guide public engagement for the development of a biodiversity conservation strategy. And further, that council directs staff to bring forward the draft state of biodiversity report, the draft human impact assessment report of the Esquimalt Lagoon Migratory Bird Sanctuary report, and the strategic framework to the Parks and Environment Committee and the Waterfront Stewardship Committee for review and feedback. There is a presentation for council should you wish to receive it.
Please, thank you. Carolyn.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council, and thank you for your time tonight on this item. We're pleased to bring you an update on this project with some draft documents, as was mentioned, and a framework. This project is a priority under the Climate Action Plan, is part of our current budget. And the Esquimalt Lagoon piece, the assessment, was a direction of Council from November 2023. So this work has been unfolding, and with the project team, I'm happy to have Cassandra Cummings here from Diamond Head Consulting. She's a biologist and planner and the lead for Diamond Head on the consulting side. And I'm not moving my slides. Sorry. I'm leading for staff with a great internal team from Parks, GIS Planning, and Communications. So we are, through this report, providing you with an update on the project and some draft assessment reports and a framework that we propose to use to guide our public engagement through the fall as the strategy is developed. So I'm going to hand it over to Cassandra now to give you an update on the work.
Great, thank you for having me. Just a brief introduction to what we're going to chat about. As mentioned, there's been kind of 3 deliverables that have been worked on over the last 9 or 10 months now. The first is the State of Biodiversity Report, which basically gives you kind of a snapshot in time of what biodiversity looks like in the city of Colwood, as well as the Human Impact Assessment for Esquimalt Lagoon. Council has identified in the past the importance of Esquimalt Lagoon. It's well known, I think, amongst your citizens, and so we wanted to spend some additional time specifically looking at the impacts of the lagoon. And then finally, we have the Biodiversity Conservation Framework. The intent is to kind of talk about some of the high-level approaches that we want to take with the biodiversity conservation strategy so that we can get rolling on the strategy itself in the coming months. As mentioned, there's been a number of steps done to date. I'll talk through those in a bit more detail in a moment, just kind of highlighting that we're at the draft framework piece right now and really starting to move into developing the biodiversity conservation strategy itself. Engagement's been ongoing throughout the previous few months. We have an additional event coming up mid-October, and we're going to be continuing on with engagement throughout the project. So while developing the State of Biodiversity report, we've used a number of different data inputs. One of my favorite is always the fieldwork. We were able to do strategic site visits across your beautiful city. You can kind of see in the map that we've tried to get a variety of locations spatially across the city, as well as a focus on areas where we had questions, areas that looked really interesting, or that seem to have high biodiversity values. We also wanted to verify the accuracy of some existing spatial data, as well as some new models we had run, which I'll get to in a second. And this fieldwork was conducted by professional biologists. It was mostly limited to public land, but we did go to private land where we received permission, or if we could see from kind of the road, just the general conditions. As mentioned, we did a number of spatial analyses. We used several different input data for this, including the terrestrial ecosystem mapping, or TEM. We did run our own flow accumulation model. And so this was to try and identify perhaps any water courses that are missed within the city that perhaps we didn't know about before, as well as to find the existing of known locations of water courses. So just to get some really detailed flow model information. And as mentioned, those were field verified before they were brought into your water course data. So we also looked at species at risk and the Garry Oak ecosystems, as well as any other of the ecosystems at risk. And we used all of this data together to develop the biodiversity ranking, as well as the connectivity analysis. I already talked briefly about engagement. This is just to mention that we have the Let's Talk page on Colwood. We have an ongoing story map, so if anyone's interested and hasn't filled it out yet, please take a look at the story map and feel free to drop a pin at some of your favorite places or places that you think maybe need a little bit more attention. We've done some staff workshops, we've done some committee presentations, and we have, as mentioned, a public engagement event October 18th, I believe it is, as well as additional engagement going on forward. The state of biodiversity in Colwood. Colwood is located within the coastal Douglas Fir, moist maritime Beck zone. Basically, it's a small endangered ecosystem type that exists within British Columbia, and it's our most at-risk climate zone in BC. And we have a variety of diverse habitats, including terrestrial habitats, freshwater, wetlands, marine, all kinds of marine coastal, and diverse terrestrial habitat and forests as well. We use a number of the layers that we've talked about to date in our biodiversity ranking. And so this really tries to tease out where your most biodiverse spots are in the city, and perhaps where some of your less biodiverse areas are as well. Perhaps they've been a bit more degraded, and or it also does include what type of ecosystem it is within it. And so certain types of ecosystems just tend to support more biodiversity than others. So this can be useful to understand where some of your kind of key priority areas for protection are, as well as to identify areas that could use some more attention. We used all these inputs to date to do an assessment of your connectivity, of your ecology. The writing's a little small, apologies, but the habitat hubs, and so those are your big dark green spots. Those are where your biggest, most connected and biodiverse habitat types are. And so these will have what's called refuge habitat. Basically, species can kind of get a break from humans within them. The smaller light green ones are your smaller habitat sites. And so these are usually either smaller or they have kind of a greater surface area to area ratio. So they don't have that kind of protected habitat where things can really get away, but they're still very valuable, especially when you're looking at movement through your system, as well as, of course, nature for all and access to nature. The orange connectivity corridors, these are kind of, you're seen as your movement corridors. So these are entirely based on existing corridors within the city currently. And so it really highlights the importance of kind of the marine area and into Esquimalt Lagoon, as well as some of the areas kind of around the edges of the city. And that really is what allows your animals to move between all the other sites. Getting into the assessment for Esquimalt Lagoon, it's obviously a key ecological feature in Colwood with many valuable habitat types. I think everyone knew that before coming in here today, but it's also really highlighted through our analyses as well. There's a variety of estuaries, coastal marshes, wetlands, sand ecosystems, eelgrass and kelp beds, and it's a part of the Pacific Flyway and an important stopover for many migratory birds. We wanted to look at a variety of different human impacts of what we understand have been happening in the lagoon. And so that included looking at things like changes to sediment supply, disturbances to bird population, which we did witness when we were there, people feeding birds, or startling them, or canoeing near them, or letting their dogs trying to understand the impact of development and water quality, changes in vegetation, including invasive plant species, off-leash dogs, and of course climate change, as well as invasive animal species as well, such as some of the crabs that are in there recently. The one thing we haven't done yet, but was pointed out as something that's missing, so we're going to be updating in a future version, is to include more of the understanding the impact of sound on the birds in the sanctuary. So looking at the strategy framework itself, the way we have it set up for you today in order to kind of facilitate our discussion is the vision. And so this will be developed through various consultation events and we'll kind of set a high level direction. We named a few kind of general concepts that we think would work well in the vision based on staff workshops to date, as well as a number of engagement events. We've set up a preliminary goal, as well as some principles or strategies that can help us achieve the goal. And then from there, if we're all kind of happy with the high level general direction that's been proposed, we'll start to get through with some of the actions on how to make that a reality on the ground. So the goal that's been set forward as of today is the City of Colwood prioritizes an integrated approach to the interconnected issues of climate change and biodiversity loss, including through the use of nature-based solutions. The city consistently increases protection and restoration of biodiversity and ecological connectivity to ensure the community and its natural assets are healthy, resilient, accessible, and conserved for future generations. The 5 principles we put forward to help make this goal happen is to protect, restore, and enhance biodiversity, climate resilience, and ecological function, establishing ecological connectivity across the city and in partnership with neighboring jurisdictions, integrate biodiversity and climate resilience into municipal planning and decision making, engage and really involve the community to be environmental stewards, both on private lands and public lands, and contribute towards biodiversity and climate action goals, as well as to develop policies and staff support to define and guide nature-based solutions that address climate action, other societal challenges, and provide measurable biodiversity benefits. And then finally, again, once we're all kind of happy with this general direction, we'd be looking to develop some smart actions that could be specific, measurable, and time-bound to make sure that we are able to really monitor what's been proposed going forward. I think that's me, so I'll pass it back to.
Okay, just really quickly wrapping up, we're, you can see in this slide our plan for the next steps and hoping for your direction on those next steps, particularly with engagement. But we'd be leaving the technical reports open as draft until we bring back a final strategy, so those can be further refined. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks very much, Carolyn. That's a great presentation. I'll open the floor up for council if you have any questions. Councillor Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I'm happy to move the staff recommendation, receive the report. I understand that, it's a very comprehensive and detailed report with a lot of different layers, and that it would be going to the Waterfront Stewardship Committee as well as the Environment Committee. And then it will return to council. So I'm happy to move the staff recommendation. Okay. Thank you.
I'll loop back to you. I just have a couple of questions. Thank you. Councillor Grove.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The question is fairly specific. I think that the lagoon area was sewered in the past, 10, 12 years. I don't know how long, I've lost track. But it seems to me that the lagoon has benefited a great deal from the sewering of the lagoon area and the discontinuing of all these septic tanks leaching in. I have to admit, I didn't read every word. So I don't know if that is in there, or if there's a comparative from sort of before and after. The second part is also, I'm curious, or I would like to see how we can start taking very specific steps toward mitigating the impact of the human activities. We've done some of that on the lagoon, I know, and you speak to it here all over, like it's full of it. It's wonderful from my perspective. So these practical steps towards achieving those goals is kind of, for me, really keen. It can be small to start. got Pink Colwood now. That's one in the right direction, I think. But anyway, I would love to see that. So thank you.
Thanks very much. I just
Oh,
have,
she had that one question. I was,
sorry.
sorry, Mr. Mayor, I think there was an answer to my.
Oh,
first
don't worry
question,
about that.
answer two-parter, so,
Sorry, I'll be super fast.
yeah, thank you.
We didn't do any of our own water quality testing or anything like that, so I don't think we have any new data to work with on that front. But that's a great point. Happy to include some additional research into the septic tank piece. And then on the action piece, I totally agree. I think everyone's always worried that things are going to be a strategy on the shelf, and so we're happy to make recommendations through those smart actions, and we're happy to make sure that those find their way into the strategy.
Thanks very much. Just two questions, quick questions here. First question I have right now is, this is pretty phenomenal. The first time I've ever seen a baseline which showing our biodiversity and ecological conditions here in Colwood. It was really interesting. I just sort of looked at it, but I'm a neophyte. So what does all this mean? Is it good, bad, ugly? Like I was trying to figure out what you're trying to tell me with this. I wasn't sure.
That is an interesting question. I think you always just need to consider each municipality on their own as part of it, of what you have left, and part of what you have left is in fantastic shape, and so that's always great. I think for me, what stands out is maybe some of the maybe lack of movement corridors, and so there might be some opportunities for some more kind of enhancement of those into the future. And so I think that's something that we might try and tackle through the strategy itself, is kind of making some recommendations around that. But you do have some good quality, intact, large natural areas within the city boundaries, which is great.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's what I thought, but what the heck do I know? Second question I have right now, as part of the strategy coming back to us, are you going to have sort of high level cost estimates that go with the strategy? Is that the plan?
Normally we keep it very high level, but yes, we do include that with the actions as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll go to Councillor Olson, who's made the recommendation. Oh, sorry, I missed Councillor Ward first. Councillor Ward, question.
Yeah, just a quick question. I mean, the state of biodiversity report, certainly comprehensive and makes sense. And I was a little bit more interested on the human impact assessment. It even references the, swimming as an issue in terms of the birds there. So is the intent of this strategy framework to go to the committee to essentially guide the public engagement into a place where we're going to be asked to remove human activity from the lagoon? Because that's the sense I get. Council has made a decision to eliminate food trucks and music and things like that. And this to me seems to be another step in the direction of essentially stating that all human activity at the lagoon is problematic. So am I off base with that, or?
As always, I would say that decision making of what you do with the information is largely up to the municipality and to council. Personally, I don't imagine it would head in that direction, but I don't know what the general decision. At this point, it's more of just about introducing the information as we know it, and so people do have impacts. I think at the end of the day, we all recognize that municipalities, number one, have to serve people. And so at least that's the planner in me speaking. The biologist in me might think differently, but and so it's about trying to find paths forward that are best suiting the needs of everyone and everything. Some consider your wildlife to be, members that live within your municipality too. I could see recommendations around, seasonality, timing of when things are most sensitive and things like that. I think that would be a realistic goal that I would personally like to see. Things like that would be more along my thinking versus, no one's going to tell you to. Well, I'm not going to say that no one will, but.
No, that's great. That's a very candid and thoughtful answer. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Over to Council Olson, who's made the motion for the staff recommendation. Seconder, please. Okay. Council Grove, further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. We'll go on to item 8.2. I'll get the CEO to introduce our speaker, please.
Thank you, Chair. Josh Andrews, our head engineer, is to present the Transportation Master Plan update with the community engagement phase 1 completion. The recommendation is that council receive this update for information and that council endorse the continuation of the engagement timelines and activities as previously approved in March 2025, including the completion of phase 2 of the engagement process in early 2026. This has come forward from council wanting to have a look at the transportation master plan and the process that's in place. So we put this report together to show council what the next steps are and to make sure that we're meeting what council's expectation is, because we understood there was a desire where we could possibly speed up this process. So that's what this report does, is identify the different options that council would have should you wish to do so. And Mr. Andrews does have a presentation should you wish to receive it.
Thank you very much. We would like to, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, today we're providing an update on the engagement process of the new transportation master plan. There we go. So as you all know, the existing TMP was completed in 2015, and the new TMP will reflect changes that we've seen in the community and the population since then, and give the city a future vision of what transportation through Colwood will look like. As part of that, the TMP update, the engagement is broken into 2 phases. Phase 1, just recently completed, was to identify the issues and opportunities and priorities from feedback from the community. And then phase 2 is to get feedback on the draft TMP that is upcoming. Phase 1 has been completed and included a number of different engagement activities, which included a project webpage, a couple newsletters, a bunch of stakeholder meetings, several public events, and a community survey. And to cap phase 1 off, we're coming back to council, should be in October, for what we learned engagement summary to discuss everything we heard from the community. As I mentioned, those stakeholder engagement meetings, what does that mean? And that's one-on-one meetings with, I think there's about a dozen different like groups and other communities that all that we'd like to consider when updating that TMP. So it includes a bunch of our neighboring communities, several agencies, including several different groups within the CRD. And of course, other independent places like even the West Shore Chamber of Commerce. For the phase 2, the objectives, we start with drafting the TMP and bring that to the community and the stakeholders, and then engage the feedback on that draft TMP to be able to incorporate what we hear. We start with bringing the TMP to council, and I think the current timeline is in January. Then we start the phase 2 engagement, update the TMP based on what we hear back during that engagement. And then the plan is to come back to council in April with that sort of finalized TMP for adoption, which I think is everything I just described is in this, there, that timeline. So as I said, in October, we'll have the engagement summary followed by TMP drafting, present to council, and then phase 2 engagement followed by finalization in March or April. Oh, sorry, March there is what we learned engagement summary of phase 2. So now we have an opportunity for your feedback on the engagement process. And if you wish, of course, we can pivot on the engagement plan, and a few options here that you could consider. And if you have any questions, we'd be very happy to answer them. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Josh. Council Ward, please, open for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair, Josh, I just wonder, like, I'm certainly not opposed to continuation of engagement and happy to support any motion when the time comes. But I'm just wondering if we can find a way to maybe move past sort of the anecdotal feedback that we'll get. I mean, surely if you were to have folks that commute regularly respond, they're going to tell you the number one issue is traffic congestion, right? The proverbial call would crawl. Those who are heavily invested in mode shift and other things will tell you cycling infrastructure is the critical thing. Those with small children going to school may want, something similar, bike lanes or sidewalk improvements. And, I don't know if it's reflective of, the data that we see. So I just wonder if there's the ability to take the traffic modeling that we've had snippets of at a council level and take it to the broader community and basically show them this is what the future looks like. These are what all of the options are, and this is why we're proposing these things. I think just in the spirit of transparency, I don't know if that's feasible or not as part of the engagement process, but that's the question I had anyway.
Great comments, and we'll see the phase 2 engagement is still in flux, so we can, improve that in several different ways. Of course, with the TMP update, we'll be incorporating all that data into what is in the TMP for discussion. And so I hope there'll be discussion within the TMP that we can speak to further with the community.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Jordison.
Thanks. I just had a question about, I guess there's been some engagement with with the public, and some of those engagement sessions were talked a lot about sidewalks and cycling and transit, but nothing about roads. Are there going to be like it kind of ended after those things with more about active transportation and not about the actual road system? So just wondering if there's going to be like, are they specific engagement sessions for the different components, or do you know what would have happened there? Like, I think people wanted to talk more about the actual road system and not about all the other stuff, but they wanted to focus on that a bit. Yeah.
Thank you for your question. Yeah, and through the chair, the most of these engagement sessions are very open-ended, so the conversation will flow and we take feedback based on what people want to discuss and ask questions about. You're correct in that many of the people that are engaging at all of these, I've attended the vast majority of all these engagement sessions, and most of the community seems to be discussing the active transportation aspects of the TMP and what they'd like to see in bike lanes and so on and so forth. I think to Councilor Ward and your point, those that are driving through the community may or may not actually live in Colwood. And so far with our engagement, I think we've seen, and we'll see a little bit more in what we heard summary, but I think we've seen more participation from that active transportation community than we have from the drivers. Does that mean that drivers are completely satisfied with the roads and they don't want to see anything changed? Probably not, but it's part of the engagement strategy, and maybe in part 2, when we have an updated TMP, we'll get more engagement from those people that so far don't seem to be as interested in engaging.
Thank you, Josh.
So that's a great segue into my question, Josh, to wrap this up. So you had something that interested me in that, and you said, who you were talking to, you grouped this group together. It was resident workshop and interested parties. So could you explain who is that? Is that like the infrastructure committee, infrastructure and transportation committee? Is it those members? Is it like who exactly is that? Is that by special invitation? Who's actually being invited to the party?
Thank you. Great question. So I think the like the stakeholder engagement and those interested parties were those individual meetings with organized groups and not just the community as a whole. However, the community survey was emailed out and sent out, I think, twice, and largely advertised to the community. So the whole community could take part in that survey. Everyone who responded to the survey and everyone who had also previously asked in another unrelated community engagement through our communications department invitations went out to, so 100 and 200 people or something like that, to take part in that resident workshop. And so that was held online, and so people attended, the general public, if you were, attended that. And that is another example of that. The conversation at that workshop was far more open-ended, and it largely revolved around active transportation.
Okay. So when does the, sorry, more specifically, so when does the Infrastructure and Transportation Committee members get in this loop here? Like, I don't, that's the part I just don't understand.
Well, we had started with engagement with the Infrastructure and Transportation Committee when we did the original traffic transportation model update.
Okay.
And I think there were two in the report. You can see we were back in front of them twice at the end of 2024. Ultimately, we're doing the engagement process, and as part of phase 2, when we go to council in January with a draft TMP, followed by further engagement with the community, council can always ask us to address the committees with that draft TMP to get their feedback.
Okay, thanks very much, Josh. Seeing no other question, can I get a motion, please, for the Brett staff recommendation? Okay, Councillor Grove, seconder, please. Councillor Olson. Discussion. Seeing none, any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Unanimous. Thanks so much, Josh. Mr. Johnson, would you introduce our next speaker, please?
Thank you, Chair. We have, excuse me, Gord Beauvillier, Manager of Parks, will be presenting this item, and the recommendation, which is the Colwood Waterfront Multi-Use Pathway Project. The recommendation is that Council approve the implementation of the Colwood Waterfront Multi-Use Pathway Project as presented on September 8th, 2025, authorizing staff to proceed to project completion under the previously approved project budget of $6,695,100. And there is a presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Beauvillier.
Thank you very much. So I'm here with the presentation. We are pretty excited right now to move forward with this, and we're, through a lot of challenges and that sort of thing. The team's pretty excited, and we feel pretty positive about where we've landed here. And we'll kind of give an update through this presentation. Myself, Josh Andrews here, and Ryan Campo is online as well to help answer questions through the presentation tonight. So tonight we have we'll have a project update, some challenges that we ran into, the proposed solutions, and then we'll show some of the Colwood Waterfront Stewardship Plan concept drawings with the multi-use pathway, and then next steps and timelines. So where we are now is we've had the functional design has been completed. It included site survey, data collection, background investigation and reporting for environmental permitting, coastal engineering, agricultural permitting, and green shores rating, identifying and solving key design challenges, and First Nations engagement. There was significant increase in the project's estimated cost from the original 6.7 million, which was the original, over to around 21 million. So in that, staff did a fulsome review and scope of the funding and the funding constraints. Obviously, some of the challenges here were with the increased coastal resiliency as part of the functional design, the complexity and scope and estimated cost ballooning. Additional complexity offered no guarantee of additional resilience. The more money we spent on the coastal resilience didn't reflect and wasn't a good cost analysis for the more money we spend would mean more money we would spend to maintain it. And then also trying to make sure you're ensuring that, what we do is we're retaining that $6 million grant from the UVCM. So proposed solutions. So we went back to the original scope, the original Green Shores architectural concept in the Colwood Waterfront Stewardship Plan. The UBCM grant application was based on agricultural concepts, and revised Class C estimate is within budget. So going back, having a good fulsome look at the original concept, we felt like we could do what we wanted to do in the first place within the budget. So the next few slides here show are from the Waterfront Stewardship Plan, and part of a couple of presentations actually, and they come from the Waterfront Stewardship Plan, and they just show some of the multi-use pathway and what it was looking for, that defining the elements of the plan, various surface materials and width depending on site conditions, shared trails for bikes, strollers, pedestrians, and universally accessible design. So we'll start with the South Beach, and you'll see in some of these there's redlined out some of the design outcomes, and there's also some changes as well. A lot of these were out of the scope well before the functional design, and were not included in the scope of the project. So we begin the multi-use path here. We would have integrated riparian and dune restoration along this area. The Riflewood Berm crossing, this is the northward part of the extension, integrated salt marsh riparian and dune restoration, and the multi-use path crosswalk where it crosses to the other side. The Cobourg Peninsula, or Cobourg North, the northern limit of the multi-use path, integrated salt marsh riparian dune, traffic calming, and reconfigured parking. And then Millburn, which is around the pump station washrooms, starts the south extension of the trail, path alignment, response to site conditions, riparian and dune restoration, and safety improvements. And you'll see stuff like the Wave Plaza, which is, is still part of the revision of trying to fit. We do have area constraints around the Wave Plaza, traffic calming on Ocean Boulevard, and then parking lot reconfiguration are all subject to engineering analysis, but are still within the scope that we're hoping to do. Lagoon West was not in the scope. This was taken out very early. Perimeter Park was taken out, I believe, in 2021 and went to council in 2023 with the removal of this. The city is working with developer contributions with Beachland, and this would be outside of the scope of the Waterfront Stewardship Plan. And we have our timeline. So we would complete the revised 50% design into January 2026, where we would continue to move forward with permitting, which is a 12 months minimum, and then complete the design in 2026, with hopes of tampering and construction in 2027 to meet our deadline of our grant deadline in January of 2028. That's all I have for you for the presentation.
Going back to the original plan here, I think in terms of bang for our buck, it's pretty evident that this is the right way to go. Definitely support it. I did have a question, as you know, around the perimeter park component of this. The public facing communication from the city in April of 2023 was heavily focused on the connectivity to what was then Royal Bay or Royal Beach and now Beachlands, and a real focus for a lot of people. I think for many that have sort of concerns around accessibility of beachlands in the future, that it could become a almost a gated community. The idea of connecting the waterfront, you know, along that 4 kilometers was a pretty critical part of this, almost more so than the work at the lagoon. And again, when the announcement was made about the design and services contract awarded to Associated Engineering in January of 24, again, all the communication again then really focused on this 4 kilometer connectivity, which I think a lot of appeal there. It would be hard pressed to argue against the idea that that really adds value to Colwood. I know it's out of scope here, and we mentioned that there's negotiations with the developer, and I don't want to compromise that. But I just wonder if there is a timeline, I guess, if you will, on that, and if that can happen concurrent to, you know, what we see here, so that we realize the full scope of this plan, you know, within a reasonable time frame. And if there's anything perhaps the mayor or CAO or council needs to do to work to support staff with the developer to expedite this, because I know Beachlands is a many-year kind of project, and I think though for folks that are interested in this, you know, they'd like to see it all kind of come together at the same time. So please, I'd love to hear from you.
If I may, through the chair. It's a good point to bring up. We're actively working with that developer. There's definitely a commitment to do that connection from Ocean Boulevard all the way up to the property of the Beachlands. Timeline wise, we're working on getting sort of, as we finalize our construction plan and timelines, making sure that they align with them. I think if anything were to not go to plan with the developer, certainly we would raise it with the CAO and or mayor and look to leverage those relationships. But I think we have a really good opportunity based on the permitting, because the permitting takes a year. Our plan right now is to do permitting for the entire connection, and that economy of scale, potentially utilizing similar contractors, design, all of that makes the most sense for Colwood and the developer to work together and build it all at once, and at least phase it in a way that has it flow through. So I don't foresee there being any decoupling of them or having us complete and then wait for Beachlands. The conversations I've had with the developer are the same. So certainly if that starts to be at risk, or there's any thinking we may not go that way, staff certainly will raise that up and see where we can go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bayless. And just a quick follow-up through the chair to perhaps the CAO. I just think that based on the history of communication around this project and the idea that it was one project, one time frame, 4 kilometer beach path, we should be cognizant of the comms that go out should this motion go forward this evening. You know, what that messaging is to the community in terms of what they can expect and when. And I recognize the sensitivity around committing to something when you're in active negotiations with the developer, but I just raised that the community is watching, and then I know I've had a lot of people that are really keen on this, so our messaging will, you know, will be something people are paying attention to. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. If I can just respond quickly. I meet with the developers monthly, the larger scale developers, and this is certainly one of the items that I will raise in our next meeting. It was supposed to happen today. It was delayed, so it's an apropos time to bring that forward. And we will certainly do so, understanding that the community's expectation is that it is a contiguous pathway. Who builds it, when, and whatnot. What the public wants is access, and we'll certainly bring that to the developer's attention. And it does make sense from an economies of scale perspective for us to go through the permitting. Not that our permitting process is any different than what a developer would have to go through, but to only have to approve the project once through the various approvals that are necessary would make sense for the developer to do it all at the same time. And we will carry that forward. And if there are any issues, we will certainly bring that to council's attention so that we can get council's feedback where needed in order to make sure that they're dovetailed together.
Thanks very much. I will go virtually to Councillor Jensen.
Thank you, Your Worship. Fantastic. I enjoyed reading this, and I look forward to the outcome, Gord. But just a small niggly detail, and the mayor might be able to chime in with some of his discussions. But it's a big, ugly eyesore, that fenced prison compound at the end of the lagoon near the bridge there. I just wonder if we've made any movement with D&D at all, Mr. Mayor or staff. Thank you.
we've had the discussion, Counselor Jensen, but crickets, sorry, I will follow up on it though. Thank you.
That's it. I love all the rest of it. Just it's in the diagram, but maybe Gord can mention. It showed that matting that we had discussed a few years back, leading down to the water's edge, allowing for increased increased access to the water's edge for those with restricted mobility. Did I see that right? And is that still in there?
Thank you. Yes, it is in there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks very much, Councillor Grove, followed by Councillor Jordison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just asking about the, sorry, I moved my page here, the referee berm, was that A3? Anyway, the reference to dune restoration, does that include the remediation of old, call it contaminants from the days of, no, yeah, I'm assuming that we're talking about something, the salt marsh restoration and so on, that it's more of a surface thing. Anyway, I should let you answer that.
Thank you. Yeah, if I may, through the chair. There's quite a history in this location, and everything we can do to avoid digging down is a benefit to the project. So plans right now are to import and place material on top of existing subgrade and not to go down at all where we can avoid it.
Yeah, the degaussing tables would stay in place presumably. And then, of course, a reference to the D&D parcel that was wondering if the urban park negotiations fit into this plan in any way, or where the negotiations may be with that, or the discussions rather, the federal urban park consideration.
Yeah, thanks for the question through the chair again. I don't have an update on those sort of negotiations and talks. They certainly dovetail in, like the bottom of that park would connect with this path. And there's a conceptual path that even goes up Ocean Boulevard all the way up to, I guess, Colwood Corners area. But no, it's not sort of tied to this, and there's no update from my understanding. I'd have to check in with probably planning.
We're still talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to, I'm really happy to see this come forward, and I'm really excited to see the results that we come up with. I support it. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Joshua. Councillor Jordison, followed by Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. I guess I just have a question to staff or anybody, I guess, through the chair, just about this area in general. If there's been any discussion with the feds or with the CRD on whether this lagoon area could become like Island View Beach as a CRD park, just because I hear often that, this it's not always Colwood, it brings a lot of people to Colwood. It's not just Colwood residents, and not to stop any of the work that's being done, and that, I mean, that's all great work and everything, but I just wonder, like, long term, if it's something that could be looked into or if it has been.
Thank you for the question, and through the chair. This has not been a park that's been identified as a potential regional park. But like Havenwood was identified as a candidate for a regional park, we could look at this as a regional park as well. It would just be going through the same process, I believe, a direction from council, and then going through the whole park acquisition process with CRD.
Yeah, and I just further to that, Gord, I just wanted to mention that I think I heard the federal portion of it, but I guess I just don't understand why it wouldn't become part of this whole urban park issue with Fort Rudd Hill and that sort of thing too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
I'll respond to that one, Gord, because it's
you.
unfair to you. This is going to be political, and it's going to be politically driven. If I can answer that quickly for you. Right, thank you. But great question. I've been saying that for 8 years now. Councillor Olson.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. A question for staff, just with respect to the long-term coastal repairs and maintenance. I'm just curious, if you're confident that the $35,000 annual transfer into reserves is going to be sufficient enough to cover any major repairs that are needed. I'm assuming that's the the $50,000 annual cost is the transfer to reserves plus the $15,000 that you're estimating for monitoring the dunes. So do you think that 35,000 a year is sufficient enough to cover anticipated costs?
I'll give that a try. Joshua might jump in though. I think staff is confident, but climate change is inevitable and we may see increases in that, and that's why we would be monitoring as well. But we feel with the restoration and some of the resiliency that we would be doing, that's definitely a good start.
If I could just add, it's a really challenging thing, as Gord mentioned, to pin down. I think one of the things we did ask our consultants to do was look at the effects of a large storm, sort of a doubling of a windstorm mixed with king tides, and what damage would happen to the existing design. They gave us that number. We divided that by a number of years and then basically put on our anticipated annual maintenance, basic maintenance. One of the nice things is we rebudget every year. So if anything changes or if we get new information that might influence that ask, we bring that forward during budget deliberations. But this is sort of our calculated best estimate based on dealing with nature.
Yeah, thank you. I think that $15,000 to monitor might be a bit low just because of unpredicted weather events and, you know, whether you have it on a schedule of monitoring it, plus you have the weather events. I think that might be a little light, but thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilor Grove, are you making the motion or questions, further questions?
Thank you, Michelle. I was going to ask the question if I may make the motion to recommend, please.
Okay,
I do that.
okay. Can I get a seconder? Okay, thank you, Councilor Wilson. And we're open to discussion, Councilor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was a little confused by the response to Councillor Jordison's question around the federal park. I wonder if that's something you wanted to take offline. I mean, I guess I agree with Councillor Jordison's comment about exploring CRD management of this location. I think there's a long history of expenses here with the bridge and the roadway, and I think Gord mentioned you know, climate change impacts. Josh talked about storms. We saw last year a pretty significant storm eating away chunks of things. And the reality is we no longer have the producer's pit dumping, you know, thousands of metric tons of sand in the ocean to drift down and create a beach. You know, that has stopped. So this is going to become a bottomless pit in terms of money, not necessarily even in my generation beyond, but I do, you know, there's obviously information I'm not privy to, but I think there should be a serious conversation about, if not the feds, if they're not at the table, then talking to the CRD. I mean, I look at Island View as a great example. This is a regional park. I think that was brought up certainly during our deliberations around this food truck decision, that people come from all over. And should Colwood be subsidizing, you know, a regional park? And just to be a little cheeky, I have to mention that the report, including the original press release, talks about food truck bays on as part of the project. So that's pretty cool. Met's probably getting pulled out. I just thought I'd throw that out there. But I'm happy to support the motion, but I question if there's some validity now to add an amendment to say concurrently we should be exploring other ownership, or if we want to do that at a separate time. I'm open. I don't want to lose track of that idea.
It is a Councilor Ward, great point. And with all due respect, it is being discussed. It's already been brought up to the federal level as well as the provincial level, MLA. And CRD, yeah, that'll be involved in it too. But yes, a lot of discussions have started in actual fact. So that's all I can say for now.
No, and that's fine. I'm content with that. Thank you.
No, not a problem. Thank you. So I had a seconder. Any other discussion? Seeing none, any opposed to the motion? Seeing none, motion carries. And we'll move on to 8.5. If you can introduce that, Mr. Johnson, please, on housing targets.
8.4 is Gord Beaulieu, manager.
Sorry, yeah, sorry. My eyes
Eight-
are all funny. I ate that cookie. 8.4, please, first.
Gord Brevilier, our manager of parks, the funding for Quarry Park Phase 2. The recommendation is that council direct staff to reallocate $175,000 from the planned activities in the Colwood Creek Park improvements funding to complete interim earthworks and hydro seeding for the non-athletic field portions of Quarry Park Phase 2. Mr. Brevilier is here to provide council with the presentation should you wish to receive it.
Thank you very much.
There is no presentation.
Didn't think so.
So so as part of the Quarry Park expansion and the what the developer is required to supply to us, we do have the extra part of the about 1.9 hectares, I believe. And the reason we'd want to go on this is to cut down on the dust mitigation for next year. So if we can get started on this this year, we can have some green space for next spring and summer, and then that we can allocate some funding or divert some funding that was allocated for Colwood Creek, you know, and then we can get this done and still, you know, Colwood Creek, as we work through our ALC process there, we can still look at funding that later on and then using this funding to get this work done for the upcoming season. Staff is still in discussion and working with the developer for the parts of the park that are to be supplied by the path development, and we'll be coming back to council with that at a later date.
Thank you. Councillor, we'll open the questions to council. Councillor Jordison, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. To staff, Gord, I had some questions from the public just about Colwood Park, and I don't know I don't think it has to do with the agricultural land stuff, but there's like orange cones on the bridge where there's some repairs that need to be done with the bridge, and they've been there for a long time, and there's some other things, and I'm just wondering like what those remediations are, and if there's any way to move those along if they don't have to do with the bigger agricultural land thing.
Thank you for the question through the chair. Those are part of our pedestrian bridge program, and currently we are in the process of doing those. The one bridge with that has been the longest that needs a complete redo. We are starting that. We have to get a permit to do that because we do work in and about a stream. So there's a timeline that we have to do that work within that timeline, and that's starting in the next couple of weeks, and then that bridge will be done, and the second bridge has already been completed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Unless Councillor Jansen has a comment, I would like to move the staff recommendation.
Do you have a question first, Councillor Jansen? Sorry. No? Okay. So I got a mover, a seconder, please. Okay, Councillor Grove. Discussion? Like to talk now, Councillor Jansen? Okay, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, Gord. This makes all the sense in the world. The more we can do to achieve some usable green space for the community and to mitigate the dust, I'm in favor of. I would like to talk about $15,000 for the dog park. Maybe you can shed some light on that. What are we achieving with a contractor for $15,000?
So are you asking, so that money was allocated to Colwood Creek to start?
Okay.
Yeah, to start a.
So, yeah,
design.
you've broken it up, 175,000 and then 15,000. So I'm specifically talking about the dog park 15,000. And I mean,
Yeah,
is
so
that
I think so I have 175,000 that would cost us to do the hydro seeding and the earthworks for Quarry Park. That is coming from $160,000 for the playground
Yeah.
design and $15,000 for the dog park design from Colwood Creek Park.
Okay, so that's just where the funding's coming from. That's not the design of a dog park at Quarry Park.
No,
Okay, sorry, and I don't have the benefit of dual screens here, so I'm going by my recollection. So that makes sense then. Thank you, because I was going to ask questions about designing a dog park. So I'll yield, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, and thank you, Gord.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other discussion? Don't seeing any, I'll call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimous. And now we get to the infamous 8.5. Mr. Johnson, could you please introduce the housing target?
Thank you. Caitlin Suzuki, our planning technician, has a report on this agenda under 8.5 Housing Targets Progress Report, reporting period 1.2. The recommendation is that council direct staff to provide the Housing Targets Progress Report from the reporting period 1.2, August 1st, 2024 to July 31st, 2025 to the Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs. And there is a presentation should you wish to receive it.
Please.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. As mentioned, I'll be presenting the provincial housing target data update for reporting period 1.2. So the housing target order for the City of Colwood became effective August 1st, 2024. This housing target order established housing targets, performance indicators, and requirements for progress reporting. So as shown on the presentation, we received set targets for years 1 through 5, with our year 1 target being 178 net new units, and our year 5 target being 940 net new units. So reporting period 1.2 covers covers 1 year since the housing target order became effective. So this is from August 1st, 2024 to July 31st, 2025. In this period, 397 net new units received occupancy, which well exceeds our year 1 target of 179 units. So during reporting period 1.2, we also saw 1,214 additional units. Some were throughout the development process. So these units were either included in approved rezoning applications, or development permits and building permits that were issued, but these units have not yet been completed. So the majority of these units were seen in issued development permits and building permits, as shown in the table here. So looking at kind of our 5-year housing target goal, at the end of year 1, we've already surpassed both our year 1 and year 2 housing targets. And so in addition, the 1,214 additional units would well exceed our 940 unit year 5 target. With this being said, not all of these units may be completed by the end of year 5, or these projects may not move forward at all. However, there are also possible additional units that have not yet been included in these housing target data that we've presented. So in terms of communication, following the approval of council, this housing target report form will also be posted to our City of Colwood website, where we have our previous report form from reporting period 1.1 posted. Staff have brought forward a couple of options for council today. The first being the staff recommendation that council direct staff to provide the housing targets progress report form for reporting period 1.2 to the Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs. There's also the option for another option that's identified by council. So that's my presentation. If you have any questions about the housing targets, I'm available to answer them.
Thanks very much, Caitlin. I'll open the floor for questions from council. Councillor Jordison.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, thank you, Caitlin, for this presentation. It's really informative, and I just had some questions I wanted to ask, but I think we should be tooting our own horn about, or at least conveying it to the public somewhat, maybe through a communications are somewhat that we're actually meeting our housing target. I think it's a good news story. We're not meeting it, we're exceeding it, right? So, but I guess some of the questions I had were just around um, I think it's the Bill 44 in number 5 of section 4 of the letter to the province, or the template. Yeah, there's Bill 44 is mentioned in there, and it says adds over 6,000 SMU units. And I'm just wondering if in reference to that, is that referring to already existing, like through the secondary suites or ADUs, or is this something new that we don't know about yet?
Thank you for the question. So these units are referring to those that would be additional units that would be made possible through Bill 44, which is those in general like 3 to 4 units per lot, depending on lot size, connection to sewer, things like that. So it's not anything in addition to kind of the Bill 44, but the what was required with Bill 44.
Okay, okay. And then I just have 2 other things. On section 4, there, 3698 Machosen Road, where it recommends an additional 500 units. It doesn't look like that total is accounted for in number 5, but I could be missing it. I just wanted to point that out. I don't know if you, it's just a comment. And then I guess my last comment was just, do we have to give them this much information? Like, I feel that we're like, it's great information, but I feel like we're telling the province things we don't need to tell them, because what happens if some of these rezonings don't go forward, and then it's kind of they've got it, then they can, we'll get that letter saying you didn't approve this, or if it doesn't go through. I just worry that we're almost tipping our hand and telling them everything. It's just a comment, but I do appreciate how comprehensive it is. So thank you.
Thanks so much. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. More of a sort of philosophical comment here, but I think if we're sending a letter to the province to acknowledge that, this is where we're at, so to speak, on housing, I personally would prefer to see us push back a little bit, identify that while we are complying, there is serious question as to whether this market-based housing approach is having any real impact on housing in the province, and the impact that it's happening on services and infrastructure. So, for example, last year the province was quick to talk about the triumph of attaching 749,000 people to new physicians, which sounds fantastic on paper until you realize we had a net influx of 700,000 new residents to BC. So we attached 49,000 people in essence, right? In late August, 27 leading experts published a letter that they sent to David Eby around really the fallacy of this market-based housing approach, and that the government should focus on adding affordability, prioritizing the building of non-market housing, and preserving existing affordable housing. And I believe that. I keep hearing we have a housing crisis, and I would suggest we have a housing affordability crisis. And we're not talking about the demand side. So unless we're really focused on building affordable homes, this to me is just performative nonsense. There's a lot of communities that are starting to wake up to that and push back, but the development lobby, and we all know I'm not anti-development, I think my track record shows that, but the development lobby in this province is very, very integrated within larger communities like Victoria, Saanich, and the provincial NDPs. So they will continue to argue that this is the approach we should take. So I won't support a motion just to send a report back. I'd be seeking an amendment to express our concern with the lack of focus on affordable housing by the province. So I'll leave that at the moment, but that's an amendment I'd be seeking, or a motion I'd be seeking to make.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Ward. And I don't disagree with you, Councillor Ward, at all. And I'm trying to work from a position of strength, which is, hey, I'm achieving what I want. And the point that you just made right now is an issue related related, and I will agree with you, but my plan for this is to tackle that head on. And believe me, I will tackle this head on. So, but I want to keep it separate because right now, I don't want someone, and I found out how vengeful people are right now. I don't want someone coming in right now and saying, oh, well, now we thought about it for you Colwittians here, and we're gonna up the target on you. No, 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 no. I want to keep it separate. So I want to say, hey, we're achieving it, and we can argue from to me from a point of strength. So if you like my strategy, absolutely work with you, Council Ward, on this, and I would like to take this up separately. That's for sure, because you're right. It is an affordability issue right now. And it's clear, the data shows it clearly with all this extra housing that we've got on the market right now. It's not making a difference to rent or to prices of homes. And really, they might say it is because there's a slight drop in prices right now, but that's more from the cost of goods side, to tell you the truth. So I agree with you. I agree with everything, but if I can recommend to you that I would like to keep it separate, I want to work from what I call a position of strength, because we're meeting it. So anyways, that's my thought process on it. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'm going to ask someone to make the motion, please. Councillor Grove, seconder, Councillor Olson. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Any opposed? Okay, Councillor Grove and Councillor Jordison opposed. The motion carries. Okay, thank you very much. We will move on, please, to bylaws. Marcy, to read the bylaws, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the first one on your agenda here is for bylaw number 2077. So this bylaw was brought to council on July 14th, where you gave it first, second, and third readings. The bylaw was then referred by council to the Waterfront Stewardship Committee for feedback prior to adoption. And as per the recommendation in the staff report, the committee reviewed the bylaw at their August 28, 2025 meeting and proposed additional provisions to strengthen enforcement and to clarify the definitions. These recommendations have been incorporated into a revised draft bylaw attached as the Animal Control Bylaw 1533, 2014, Amendment number 2, bylaw number 2077, 2025. So tonight we are requesting if council wants to make those changes to rescind third reading, give it third reading as amended, and then proceed to adoption of the animal control bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Olson, question? Sorry. Oh, I saw it, so that was good. Or if you want to motivate, please.
Sure, I just thought it would be good to provide some rationale behind the amendment, specifically to feeding of the wildlife, 2.2 under section 14. So these updated amendments now clearly define wildlife and bird feeders. It also closes any loopholes on irresponsible feeder use and establishes who can enforce it while outlining fines and penalties. It'll address public concerns around deer, raccoon, rats, and bears being attracted to residential areas by intentional or unintentional feeding. Other municipalities in the region, such as Saanich, View Royal, and Esquimalt, have added clear language to reduce human-wildlife interaction, and it will discourage artificial feeding that disrupts natural foraging behavior and brings the city in line with regional best practices. Thank you.
Thank you very much for putting the context around. Councillor Ward, question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just to be clear, if somebody's down at the lagoon and they toss some bread for a duck or a goose, I guess, it's a $10,000 fine. That's what we're exploring here.
Councillor Olson.
Actually, I think maybe Byron can probably speak to it
go
better than
ahead.
myself.
Byron, please.
Thank you for the question and through the chair. The number 10,000 would have come from a previous version of the community charter to set the government's maximum penalty that we're able to chase down. There actually aren't any fines or penalties associated with this bylaw change, similar to our pesticide bylaw that went through. So our theory is, we don't picture this as an overwhelming issue that we have to deal with, and we're imagining that we'll get voluntary compliance with that. So, in answer to your question, Council Ward, we would. I don't know if I'll ever in my career seek the $10,000 through the community charter long form prosecution, but the next step would be if we do feel this is an overwhelming issue that we do need a ticketing part for, then we'll amend our MTI or bylaw notice enforcement bylaws. So far, the pesticide one has been manageable as well. So,
Thanks very much.
That's a
Can I
different subject.
Can I get a motion, please? Okay, Councillor Grove, please, and seconder, please. Okay, Councillor Jordison. Discussion? We're getting silly here. Call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have sewer local area service enlargement amendment bylaws all going for first, second, and third reading. Bylaw 2083, Colwood Main Sewer for 484 Delora Drive. Bylaw 2084, Colwood South Sewer, 484 Delora Drive. Bylaw 2087, Colwood Main Sewer, 3354 Wishart Road. And Bylaw 2088, Colwood West Sewer, 3354 Wishart Road.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Jordison, Councillor Grove. Discussion? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next, please.
Thank you. The following are all going for adoption. These are sewer local area service enlargement amendment bylaws. Bylaw number 2066, Colwood Central Sewer for 2357 Souk Road. Bylaw 2069, Colwood Main Sewer for 2357 Souk Road. Bylaw 2078, Colwood Main Sewer 2266 Souk Road. Bylaw 2079, Colwood Central Sewer 2266 Souk Road. Bylaw 2081, Colwood Main Sewer for 2437 Souk Road. And Bylaw 2082, Colwood Central Sewer for 2437 Souk Road.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Olson and Councillor Grove. Discussion? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Motion to close the meeting, please. Thank you. Councillor Olson, Councillor Grove, and any opposed? And we'll take a recess right now so we can close the meeting, please, to the public. Thank you.